scary pops. Everybody loves a good scare. So we got a few of them coming your way. Let's get into it.
I've always been a huge fan of carnivals, and I would attend them every summer. The majority of rides, such as the roller coasters, were an obvious choice for thrill seekers such as myself. And one of my all-time favorites is the classic steel roller coaster with its steep drops, sharp turns, and of course its exhilarating loops. As I fell in line, I could hardly breathe from the congestion, but convinced myself that it was worth the wait. I was always wary for my safety because of movies like Final Destination, but more importantly because of an actual death that occurred at this very same carnival. The majority of rides, such as the roller coasters, were an obvious choice for thrill seekers such as myself. I made sure to always keep those thoughts in the back of my mind though, considering I didn't want to tarnish the experience. As I gradually moved along the lineup, I had this nagging feeling that someone was gazing at me from amongst the crowd. Looking across a sea of people, it was difficult to pinpoint where that strange aura emanated from, and this feeling of being watched was really creeping me out. But as I got on the coaster, I felt a tingling sensation down my spine. I turned my head and saw a deranged woman with a bloody gash on the side of her face.
Get off the ride now!
What? Is everything okay?
Get off the ride now!
And why would I do that?
She began repeating herself while slamming her forehead against the ride's handlebars. And then, I got startled by the sight of an obese old man. His shirt didn't fit right, and he lifted it up, exposing a hairy belly soaking in sweat. As I gazed my eyes back towards the woman, there was no sign of her. I shook my head and tried to get it out of my mind, convincing myself it was nothing but mere imagination. Approaching me little by little, I averted my gaze, hoping the man would skip the vacant seat next to me. However, my worst fear was realized when he forced himself to fit in the vehicle's frame. Annoyed by the simple fact he was too big, he yelled at one of the staff saying,
"Hey, you! Why are you just standing there? Help me fit into this thing!"
The staff reluctantly replied, "I'm sorry, sir, the vehicle has a maximum limit. But if I may..."
"What the hell are you trying to say?"
The old man interrupted, his eyes glaring at the staff. Then, two other attendants arrived at the scene, persuading Mr. Piggy to get off the platform, but to no avail. And so, with all their might, they squeezed his body, hitting me to the side. As the coaster was getting ready to launch, I felt the old man's greasy body pressing against my arm. I don't know what condition he had, but he appeared to have pus-filled bumps underneath his skin, which caused my stomach to churn even before the coaster was launched. Upon eavesdropping, I heard some operators talking about a slight technical glitch, raising a couple eyebrows and pulses from the riders. However, that wasn't the only thing that bothered me though. Since it was going to take longer for the coaster to start, it meant that I was stuck here next to a guy who was anything but attractive. Then, he whispered in a seductive but revolting way,
"Hey there, cutie. Don't worry. At least we'll get to spend more time together."
What? Look, we don't even know each other, okay? So stop talking to me.
I replied.
"Oh, it's my lucky day. I never thought I'd sit next to a girl who tickles my funny bone. You're so hot. You must like a lot of things."
I ignored him after that. Then, when the operators had given us the thumbs up, the coaster finally moved, slowly climbing up the slope. But with the introduction of the ride gradually taking place, there wasn't much to distract me nor the creepy old man who was adamant. He thought I was playing hard to get, and so he pursued me intending to get my number, social media accounts, home address, and all other personal stuff, which made me more uncomfortable than I already was.
"Hey, babe, look how high we are. Unbelievable. This ride is still going up. Can you take a wild guess what else is going up?"
He said, drooling on his belly. The stench of his breath was so unbearable that getting to the highest peak felt like forever.
This is the only time I'm gonna say this, so make sure you get it through your thick skull. Stop talking to me.
"Whatever you say, pumpkin,"
he replied with a wink. Then, as we finally reached the summit, convinced he'd already thrown himself, the man licked my face out of the blue. My skin then felt covered in nasty goo. I desperately wanted to get off the cart, but we were so high up that I couldn't take my hands off the handle. Besides, at any moment, the coaster would resume and release the entire vehicle, allowing gravity to take its course as we raced through the tracks. In a nutshell, I simply had no choice. People from the other carts were now glancing at us like we were a couple in the middle of a lover's quarrel. Then, seconds later, I took a sidelong glance and noticed the old man was annoyed by all the unwanted attention. And with a surprisingly swift move of his arm, he placed it around my shoulders and yelled,
"Piss Piss off, alright? Mind your own business! I know my girlfriend's chickening out, but that's why I'm here! All she needs is me!
I looked him in the eyes and said,
Cut it out, will ya? When was the last time you looked at yourself in the mirror? Who would want to have a sweaty, stinky wild boar for a boyfriend? Oh yeah, no one.
All the others chuckled, eyeing the creepy old man with prejudice. I was afraid I might have struck a wrong chord, but it was too late to worry about that now. Besides, this would all be over in a jiffy. Then, as the ride was released, allowing momentum and acceleration to guide a thrilling experience, the creep beside me started trying to unbuckle my seatbelt. Amidst the air resistance, I yelled,
Are you nuts? What the hell do you think you're doing?
His eyes never left my seatbelt. Then, as his gaze returned to me, he smiled a sinister grin and said,
This is gonna be a wild ride, baby!
Stop it, get your hands off of me!
He continued to yank the seatbelt until it finally came off. And the next thing I knew, my body was swinging around like a twig. I held on for dear life, certain I would end up in a hospital bed, dead, or barely breathing. But by some odd miracle, I managed to survive this ordeal. The ride came to a stop, and that's when the other riders started engaging in a fight with whom they still thought was my boyfriend. Then, moments later, the attendants came to my aid. I wanted so badly to run after that creep. However, he found a way to escape unnoticed. And even after consulting with the security team, it was impossible to hold him accountable since it was like searching for a needle in a haystack. But after reflecting on the incident, I truly believe that he was the very same man who took the life of that young girl in the carnival years back. But what still gets me to this day was the warning our spirit tried to give me.
Here's a story of Courtney Smith. In 2007, the news reported on a series of ominous, grave threats that were made to this family via cell phones. They claimed that the calls would threaten to slay children, pets, grandparents, and they would come anytime during the day or night. According to one family, the callers seemed to know when the kids left for school, when they were home alone. Families also received voicemails with the recordings of their private conversations. According to the victims, the caller was aware of their activities and what they were wearing. They said that the cell phone started sending text messages to their friends by itself. And they also reported a caller having a scratchy voice and threatening to slice their throats, which continued for months. Another victim reported receiving a call from an unknown caller saying they preferred lemons when the woman was slicing limes in her kitchen. But the police never found the perpetrators. A single mother, Janet, started getting threatening phone calls at work. She paid the calls little attention, but then one night she received an ominous voice on the call. And they told her to look outside. And as she looked outside on her car's window was a single white rose. The stalker alternated between declaring his love and also making threats of physical harm. Now, the caller's voice sounded familiar to her, but she couldn't place who it was, and, well, she never got to find out. At a staff meeting, Janet noticed that one of her coworkers wasn't feeling too good, so her and another coworker took the man to a hospital. And when Dorothy went outside to the parking lot while her coworkers had waited for the prescription to be filled, she disappeared. She was never seen again after that. According to her coworker's testimony, they went outside to meet her in the parking lot after she didn't return. They thought that maybe there was a problem that had occurred with her son because they had spotted her car rushing away as soon as they left out the building. But neither her son nor anyone else ever saw or heard from Janet again. Her burned remains were discovered at a construction site 4 years later. The discovery of a collection of dog bones next to her remains added even more confusion to the case, as no one has ever been found guilty or detained on suspicion, and the caller was never located.